that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 339th edition of Energy Week with George Harvey.
Time flies when you're having fun.
That's right. And the amazing Tom Fennell.
In the flesh.
In the flesh. I am the not very amazing George Harvey.
You're pretty amazing today.
Now, did I show you the picture that I got of me and Tulsi Gabbard?
No.
I went to Keene last Friday and met Tulsi Gabbard there and gave her a copy of my latest book, which is a story of the lives of the Hindu god Vishnu, told by a 1904 Nebraska hardware store owner to his friend.
Oh.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun writing this. Anyway, she took it and said that she would read it. But I got a picture of me and Tulsi Gabbard standing side by side, and it's a terrible picture of me looking ugly and Tulsi Gabbard looking absolutely gorgeous. And I showed it to Scott down at the.
You invited her to participate in the show?
No, I didn't actually. She's got a lot on her plate right now. You know, she's running all over the country, getting ready to be president of the United States. Anyway, I have to start out by talking about how we need money. We still haven't met our annual fundraising effort.
We meaning the
show.
Studio.
The show.
The show. Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're still
a little bit short.
A little short. I think it's $120. But if you want to help Energy Week survive, you can do it by helping BCTV survive. And you can do that by going to the BrattleboroTV.org website and donate money using, the best way is using PayPal, I'm told. But you can use a credit card. And when you do so, make sure that you go to the comment section, which is just a little bit down from the amount that you put in, and say that it's for Energy Week, because that way it gets credited to the show. There's a keep. I think the button is called Support Local Broadcasting. It's at the bottom of the main screen. But anybody who's watching this and doesn't watch it on the local BCTV Channel 10 or Channel 8 in southeastern Vermont, we're going to recommend that you support your local station in addition. So, because they all need it.
They're providing a good service.
Yeah.
And they had been funded by the cable channels, but somehow or another,
call it Donald Trump.
I was just going to say that.
Well, you know, he has his ways of doing things, which, as we're seeing, don't seem to work all that well. But
let's take a chance here and put up a picture of a car.
A picture of a car. Okay, I'll put up a picture of a car. And by the way, our broadcasts happen on Thursday morning. Today is the 10th of October, and we're starting a week ago today with stories that appeared at my blog on the 3rd of October, and we go through these on a day-by-day basis, usually 3 a day. And if you are interested in one of these stories, the thing is to go to my blog, geoharvey.com, geoharvey.com, and click on the calendar for the date that we mentioned. We're starting on Thursday, October 3rd, and we have an item here from Clean Technica.
Well, I was going to point out some of these things are well worth looking up, and I'll try and
some
mention.
of them are not.
Well, I'll try to mention some of the ones that are, because there's one of them we'll be talking about later. It took me about 3.5 days to read it.
Oh my gosh. Well,
I read slow.
Yeah. I don't think there's any of these that are not worth reading. There are some of them that are very, very short, however.
Yeah, and there's one of them that's really, really long.
One is really, really long.
Well, let's take a look at this car again.
This is
briefly.
Clean Technica, and
That's a Chevy Bolt for those that are interested in.
Yeah, it says so right at the
electric
bottom
car.
there. What do you got for a title?
Big Oil faces a formidable foe in the fight against EVs.
Electric utilities are keen on EVs, seeing them as a future revenue source. I'm not doing well today. They are developing programs to encourage the build-out of charging infrastructure needed for this. But millions of dollars are being put into campaigns around the country to try to put a stop to EV infrastructure projects. Big Oil is reacting to the utilities.
I'll mention that because I got a couple notes here from the article.
Go
Many
for it.
utilities are sponsoring the installation of public charging stations.
No, we've seen that
We've seen
here.
it right here in town.
Yeah.
Some are offering rebates for home chargers. Utilities stand to gain if EV adoption rates increase. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But groups backed by the oil industry giants, including ExxonMobil and the Koch empire, are fighting back. Fossil fuel interests control 90% of the transportation fuel market in the U.S. and are really feeling threatened.
Yeah.
Well, they got a right to be, really.
Well, they are threatened. There's no question
No,
about it.
there's no question.
I
There's
mean,
a lot of
basically,
details about that.
If you follow the logic of climate change and what has to be done to address it, they have to go out of business. Or they have to change their business plans
gotta change their business
enormously. Well, if they're going to go the way ExxonMobil, and well, especially a place like Koch Industries, they're not flexible. They don't bend with the wind. You know, we were talking about the old story of the tree and the tree was laughing at the grass because grass was pushed around by the wind. Morning comes and the tree's lying on its side, and the grass says, you know, if you bend with the wind, you have a chance of surviving. These people are not willing to change their business plans, and so what they're trying to do is to force other people to use their products.
Well, that might work in the short run, but it's certainly not going to work.
Not going to work in the long run, no.
And the model of a big energy company supplying all the energy is going out the window as we speak. I mean, there's renewable energy is getting so cheap you can't afford not to use it.
That's right.
And it's
we
going
will
to be distributed.
There's a really nice chart that shows this that comes up later today.
Yeah, we'll be talking about that.
Yeah. Anything else on that, Tom?
Well, it's just this is from the article too. One thing is certain, a legal and political civil war over EVs is brewing.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's other things about this too, by the way. We should warn people. Roads are maintained in most states
By tax money.
by
gas
tax money
taxes.
that comes from gasoline, which means that EVs are riding around free.
Well, they're figuring out how to get that.
They're figuring it out.
They've
But
already figured out, they just haven't told us yet.
I suppose that's true. But, you know, the point is that we have to change our tax structure to accommodate that.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's just common sense.
Yeah,
The world is changing.
the world is changing.
Well, we got another one coming up here.
This is from thejournal.ie, which is an indication that this comes from Ireland.
I think so, yep. And it says here that the EU will provide 530 million pounds or euros of funding toward the Irish-French power line. This is interesting. It's a pretty long cable.
Yeah, it's a long cable. This is longer than most extension cords I've seen. The EU, the EU will contribute 530 million euros, I was back to the euro pounds, to the Celtic Interconnector project to connect the Irish electric grid to France. The project will cost €1 billion. It will link Ireland's electricity network to France by an underwater connection, and it is set to be complete by 2026.
Well, it's coming from this very far south of Ireland.
Yep.
Okay. It's 700 megawatts high voltage DC.
Right.
Okay. It's about 250 miles direction, so there's going to be two of them.
Yeah.
Okay, for DC. And it's going to have the capacity to power 450,000 households. So this is significant.
This is significant, yeah.
I mean, basically, they're tying Europe's grid to the Irish grid.
They're doing this all over. There's one that goes from
yeah.
Norway to the Netherlands.
Absolutely,
and, you know,
same damn thing. Same damn thing, right?
The government of Iceland has been wanting to connect Iceland to Scotland, which is kind of a long distance. But, you know, Iceland is...
Well, they're doing something like that in Australia. It's heading north.
They're talking about northern territories to Singapore,
Yep, yep.
which is a long
That's
way.
a pretty long way. That's
Yeah.
longer than this.
Yeah, it is.
And
it is.
they haven't talked yet about connecting New Zealand. But I think it's coming. It's just a matter of,
We've
still in the future. 'Cause
the
it's
line
longer.
losses for high voltage DC using modern equipment are so low.
They're low.
That you could, if you had the cable in place, you could produce energy anywhere in the world and deliver it to anywhere in the world and make
Basically, we've
make
got
money
that
doing
technology
that.
now.
Yeah.
We do.
Yep. Okay.
So we got another picture coming
We have
up
a
here.
picture. This is a very uninspiring looking picture until you realize what it is. This is from Clean Technica.
Anheuser-Busch and BYD, the Chinese company we've talked about,
Yep.
is launching North America's largest electric Class 8 feet. Now, take a look at that truck. Class 8 is as big a trailer truck as you get in this country.
On a road, on a normal road,
On
yeah.
a normal road. There is
Yeah.
a Class 9 truck, but you're not going to see it on the highway.
Not very
And
often.
I'm guessing that lump behind the cab there is where they got the batteries.
Yeah, that would make
Okay.
sense. Yep. Anheuser-Busch is dipping its toes into electrifying its fleets with the purchase of 21 fully electric Class 8 trucks from BYD. The BYD ATT Class 8 trucks will be put to use at 4 of Anheuser-Busch's Southern California distribution facilities.
Well, this is not cheap. The total project cost is estimated to be 12. Is that trillion?
No.
It can't be. It's got to be billion.
No, it's going to be. I think it's going to be 12 million.
No, it definitely. Well, yeah, it looks like I'm looking. I'm getting confused by all these zeros, but it is. It's
Yeah.
12 million. ENGIE will be installing a 1 megawatt solar array, which will offset some of the power needed to charge the new
Right,
vehicles.
right.
Yeah, I just had too many zeros there.
Okay, we're up to Friday, October 4th, and we have an item here from Clean Technica.
Tesla third quarter sales grew 1,664% in 6 years,
That's
and 271% in 2 years.
that's quick growth.
That's a lot of growth.
Many of us who believe that Elon Musk's aggressive forecasts could come to pass weren't super confident that they actually would. We were perhaps more hopeful than convinced. Nevertheless, Tesla is currently on track to nail Elon Musk's 2014 forecast for 2020 sales. And the sales, Tom, I see this every day, where some country says Tesla has got Tesla the Tesla Model 3 is the biggest selling car in such and such
We're
country
going
for
to
September.
touch base on that again today in
That's
a different
right.
article.
But I see a lot of them that don't make it to this show.
Well, it's a good car.
It's it's a good car. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Well,
And now we have a picture. This is a weird-looking
got
picture.
another picture coming up here. Yeah.
And this is from CU Boulder Today. This is the University of
that?
Colorado
Yep.
in Boulder.
Yeah, and it looks very much like a ship.
I think that's what it actually is.
Students and teachers drift along with an epic Arctic climate expedition. This is interesting. Tell us about it.
Yeah. K through 12 students. This is kindergarten students. It boggles my mind to think of kindergarten students doing this. K through 12 students around the world can now be part of one of the largest Arctic climate research expeditions ever conducted. In September, the RV Polarstern, RV means research vehicle, or research vessel, I'm sorry. It's
Okay.
Polarstern icebreaker set out to freeze itself into the Arctic sea ice for the next
interesting.
year. Yeah. For the next year, it will drift across the Arctic Ocean. And that means these kids, K through 12, and a whole bunch of scientists,
They can get on that ship.
they're going to be on that ship. It's already left port.
Well, it's floating out there now.
Yeah, it's out there. And they're doing a year's worth of research on that ship. That is not a small vessel, by the way. This is
Well,
not
a quick takeaway. They call this thing the most multidisciplinary drifting observatory for the study of Arctic climate. And there's a acronym for that spells MOSAIC. Okay? And it's a better effort to understand the Arctic's changing climate.
right.
And it is changing.
You know, Tom, I don't remember. Maybe you do. Did this article say how that ship was powered? I'll bet it's powered by a nuclear plant.
It didn't say, the article didn't say anything at
Okay.
all.
And the first.
Well, they got to have power on that ship, and they're not going to bring oil out to it.
I don't think so.
So it does make sense that
It would be nuclear. The first, you know, I had a classmate when I was in 7th grade or something like that,
I
whose
did
father
too.
was the executive officer of the NSS Nautilus, which
Okay.
is the first
Yeah,
U.S.
so the
first
yeah,
U.S.
yeah.
Nuclear ship.
Atomic power ship, yeah.
Yeah, and I was kind of floored when the Russians, the Soviet Union, came up with its first ship that was nuclear powered, and I saw that it was an icebreaker. But the first
Well, it makes sense when you think about it.
it sure does. If I were in Murmansk, I'd want an icebreaker. Okay.
Well, let's move along here. PacifiCorp to add 7 gigawatts of clean power by 2025.
This was all over the news.
Yeah,
There's
that's-
lots of implications.
7
of this.
gigawatts is not nothing to sneeze
Nothing
at.
to sneeze at. This is from Renews, and like all of the articles that I pick up from Renews, Renews has two ways of producing articles. One of them is subscription only, and one of them is free. And the free articles are all really short.
Okay.
But
And this was one of them.
Yeah, this was one of them, and I pick them up very often. They're the best source of something. PacifiCorp, a utility serving the Northwest, has published a 20-year blueprint setting out a plan to add around 7 gigawatts of new renewables and storage capacity by 2025. The plan includes more than 3.5 gigawatts of new wind capacity, 3 gigawatts of solar, and 600 megawatts of storage by the middle of the next decade. And
Well, this is the first time they've included battery storage.
yes, and in the process, in the course of doing this, they're cutting out a lot of coal.
Oh, definitely.
And that is really getting people upset in places like Montana and Wyoming.
Oh, definitely. That's where they
So-
mine the coal.
That's where they mine the coal. And very often that's where they burn it. So we're up to Saturday, October 5th.
we got a nice picture coming up.
We
here.
have a picture. Come on. There we go. This is
Yeah, let's
a
get that
picture I
picture up.
wish were different in its colors. That kind of,
Yeah, it kind of faded away, isn't it?
yeah, it's all very brown. I think it's because it's late in the afternoon that was taken. But anyway, what do you have? This is from Clean Technica. What do you
Well,
have?
that's
for
a
title?
hydrogen-powered plane for what it's worth.
Yeah.
And the article says $3.3 million grant for fuel cell / electric aviation startup, Zero Avia.
The aviation startup Zero Avia has received a 2.7 million pound.
Didn't I just say that?
You did, which is $3.3 million grant. And why this came out in pounds, I don't know. This is a Clean Technica article. From the government of the UK, I know why.
That's where it came from.
It's
yeah.
because it originally came
Started
from
in
somebody
pounds,
else.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, it did.
Grant from the UK. Okay, there you go. It's a grant from the UK. Everything makes sense when you do enough analysis. The funds will be used to support the continued development of fuel cell electric propulsion technology to reduce aviation carbon dioxide emissions.
Well, it's a long article. It's an interesting article.
It is.
And I got a quick takeaway here.
Good.
The project will utilize already certificated airframes from existing companies.
Right.
So they're not going to be building this
They're
thing
not
from
building the
scratch.
planes, they're just building the
engines.
engines.
The fuel cells use hydrogen to produce electricity.
Right.
Okay. This powers the motors that drive the propellers.
Right.
Okay. Hydrogen fuel cell systems are 4 times more energy dense And that counts a lot when you're bringing it up into the air.
It sure does.
Okay? Then the best available battery system. So
Well,
they're lighter than batteries.
they're lighter. The only thing that worries me about fuel cells in airplanes is your fuel is hydrogen. And that hydrogen...
Hard to store.
It's hard to store, and by golly, hydrogen, liquid hydrogen is really hard to store.
You got to play with it there.
Yeah, you
It's
do.
You got to keep it cold.
Cold.
Well, the total cost of hydrogen is projected to be about half the cost of jet fuel.
Yeah, see, that's
So
the thing.
that's what's going on.
Yeah.
And the takeaway here is within 15 to 20 years, we expect hydrogen fuel cell-based powertrains to penetrate most commercial aviation.
Now, you know, one of the things that I have seen is that you can use fuel cells to strip the hydrogen from nitrogen and then use that for power, which means that you're using the hydrogen for power, but you're releasing nitrogen into the atmosphere, which is fine because the atmosphere is
Mostly nitrogen.
mostly nitrogen anyway. And the only thing is, I don't know which side of, you know, I don't know whether that would be a better source than hydrogen for these. I just don't know. But hydrogen, if you have liquid hydrogen,
Yeah.
and you take a goldfish and drop it in, it's
You
going
get
to
a hard
freeze like that.
goldfish.
You wind up having a goldfish and it's frozen so fast that when you take it out, you could hit it with a hammer and shatter it, or you could stick it in water and watch it thaw and swim around.
Is that so? It
Yeah.
doesn't even kill them.
It doesn't kill them
That's
because
amazing.
it freezes them so quickly. Okay, we've got an item now from Smart Energy. This is also about air.
Dulles, I'm going to put us both up here.
Good idea. Nobody wants to see me.
Dulles Airport pilot project is one of the region's largest.
Dominion Energy has partnered with Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority, this is Washington, D.C., obviously, for a solar energy pilot project at Washington Dulles Airport. The 100 megawatt solar PV project is the airport authority's first large-scale renewable energy initiative of this kind.
Well, it's fairly significant.
And my recollection is it's about...
Consisting, what, we got 5 megawatts in Brattleboro?
It's about 30 miles west of Washington, D.C. They're putting this up.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Well, the project will power the airport, okay, and it's going to connect to Dominion's transmission lines to provide energy to Virginia's most populous region. So they're going to use it well.
Yeah.
The facility is expected to come online before 2023 as part of plans by Dominion to reach 3 gigawatts of wind and solar by 2022. Now that's significant.
Yes,
3 gigawatts of wind and solar is significant.
it is indeed. Okay, we are up to an item from Public News Service,
Well,
and we
got
have
a
a picture
coming
here.
up, and we'll start looking
Somebody
at the picture
walking
here.
around in the water.
That's what it looks like. Pennsylvania to join Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative.
I was fascinated to see this.
Yeah, because
You know-
we've talked about that before, and Pennsylvania was the only state in the Northeast didn't belong.
And now it's going to belong. Pennsylvania is making a major step forward in its efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Governor Tom Wolf has, I feel like calling him Tom Wolf, has said, I have this thing about pronouncing German names properly, and that's probably not a German name because it isn't spelled German spelling, it's English, has set the wheels in motion for the Keystone State, which is Pennsylvania obviously, to join 9 other northeastern states in the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative.
Which is
Announcing it-
basically everybody north and east of Delaware.
well, there's 6 states in New England. They're all
Yep.
in it. New York is in it. New Jersey
Yep.
is in it. Maryland and Delaware.
Yep.
Now, New Jersey was in and then with a Republican governor dropped out. And then a Democrat
in.
governor put it back in again. So, but this is the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative is a pretty well thought out approach to switching from fossil fuels to renewable energy.
Well, what they do is they set annual caps on carbon emissions.
Right.
Okay. And they auction pollution credits
Right.
based upon how the electricity is generated.
Right.
Okay, renewables is what basically they're selling.
Yeah.
Okay, and in 2018, extreme weather in Pennsylvania, okay, caused $144 million in property damage and $125 million in damage to state-maintained roads and bridges. So this is costing money. So they're trying to save that money.
It's costing money.
The governor noted that climate change made 2018 the state's wettest year on record. It probably came close to being the hottest year on record, too.
Yes, and as a matter of fact, we are up
We'll
to
be touching base on that.
Sunday, October 6th, and we have an item from CNN which just talks more about flooding.
Sunny day flooding and 90-degree days during the South's endless summer. The South got hit hard this year.
The South got hit hard. Atlanta has broken a record for 90-degree days this year. There were 91 of them. That's amazing. Wildly surpassing the average of 37. Charleston had 58 coastal flood events in 2019 so far. These are effects of global warming, and this September is another record month.
Well, they're referencing a week of record high temperatures across the U.S.
Yeah,
Nearly 200 record high temperatures were broken.
yeah.
Okay. Warmer air temperatures mean warmer ocean temperatures, which means sea level rise in the form of melting sea ice and thermal expansion. Now that's basically why you're getting
Sunny day flooding.
sunny day flooding.
Yeah.
Sea level rise means more frequent coastal flooding events.
Now, for anybody who doesn't understand the sunny day flooding thing, I think most people know that there is such a thing as tide. There's high tide and low tide, and the tides are affected by both the sun and the moon,
Yep.
but more closely the moon.
Yes,
So,
definitely.
you know, as the moon goes around the Earth and the Earth spins, the areas that are closest and furthest from the moon both have high tide.
And on the days of the highest tides, the storm sewers work backwards.
Yeah. And what happens here is that when the sun and moon are lined up in the sky, which is when you have a new moon or a full moon, the high tides are highest and the low tides are lowest. When you have that highest high tide, if it's 6 or 8 inches above what the storm system was designed for,
Then you're going to have something like this
you're
picture.
going to have something like this. And it's not because of a rainstorm, it's just because the storm sewers are running backwards.
Exactly.
Now, in some places, like on the south east coast of Florida, the earth beneath the cities is made of sandstone. And when that happens, you can't even put up a seawall because the water will just pass through the sandstone. So, you know, they're talking about putting $500 million into raising the roads in Miami, but that'll only give them until
Only going to give them a
2050.
few years.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll move a little bit ahead now. We've got another picture, and this one comes from Iowa.
This one comes from Iowa, and the article is from Clean
And
Technica.
if you look really close, you'll see a woman carrying that sign, and that's Greta Thunberg.
That's right. And the sign is in Swedish.
Yes, it is.
What's the title?
Greta Thunberg leads Iowa students in pop-up climate strike.
In Iowa City, home to the University of Iowa, 14-year-old high school student Massimo Biggers was planning the protest he has done every Friday since last spring when he got a message from Greta Thunberg saying she would join him. Over 3,000 people showed up. That crowd that you've got goes as far as you can see. But you know, I want to bring people's attention to the person in the picture I suspect was the person who she went to visit, and that's the boy in the lower left who's got his hand up to his head. He looks for all the world like he's saying, I just told Mary Lou, and look, everybody in town shows up. What happened?
He needs a new pair of pants.
He needs a new half the teenagers in the world need a new pair of pants. But, you know, I mean, she's visiting one person who happens to be one of the guys in the picture, probably. We don't know for sure.
Well,
And the word gets out, and everybody's there.
some of the media is starting to
Attack.
criticize her, attack her. And that's good news, because it means she's...
What was it that you were saying about that before the show started? You said they said that she was a tool of
George Soros.
George Soros. And you know, I'm sitting here, this is comical. Greta Thunberg got her start, picketing or protesting at the Swedish Parliament on Fridays. And the idea that
George Soros just happened to be visiting that.
Well, I think that George Soros was lying in bed saying, how am I going to attack these people? What's going to be effective? How am I going to bring out a new voice to attack the right-wing media, the right-wing companies and politicians? Maybe a Swedish girl who's 16 years old and looks like she's 10 or 12. You know, maybe I'll start that.
Work. Yeah,
that might work.
You can't trust these guys.
This is just
well,
the idea
there's a takeaway from the article that says it well. Thunberg is one of the most hated people on the planet right now, which illustrates rather nicely how far defenders of the status quo and fossil fuels will go to savage anyone who challenges them.
Well, I'll tell you something. My daughter is not right-wing, and she's not in favor of fossil fuels, and she does not like Greta Thunberg.
Oh, yeah?
She says that Greta Thunberg sounds whiny.
She sounds whiny?
Whiny.
Well, maybe she does, but she's doing a good job.
She is
or else they
doing
wouldn't be attacking her.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we're up to Monday, October 7th.
Yeah, let's move down to Australia. We got a picture here coming up. Interesting looking truck.
This is from Clean Technica.
Well, that's the next one. We got one before that.
Oh, you're right. We're not up to October 7th.
The truck
We're still
yet.
on the 6th. Okay, this is from The Guardian.
It is from The Guardian. It says, Water Resources Minister totally accepts drought linked to climate change.
This is important because I think the division between people who believe in climate change and people who don't is probably at least as pronounced in Australia as it is in the United States. David Littleproud, interesting name, Australia's Drought and Water Resources Minister, said he totally accepts that worsening droughts are linked to climate change. He signals more support for regional communities was coming up as Australia's big dry escalates. The big dry is their drought, which is just, it's awful.
Well, there's a backstory here because apparently he stumbled last month by first telling The Guardian he didn't know if climate change was man-made.
Yeah.
Okay, and then he later clarified that he had always accepted the science on the roles humans play in climate changing. So he's kind of trying to bounce a ball around.
Well, yeah.
He says he understands the link between climate change and drought because, quote, I live it.
Yeah.
So
and they've got some things going on in Australia that are absolutely astonishing.
Well, we'll touch base on that again
we
later
will.
today, but the potential for solar particularly and wind also in Australia is enormous.
Oh, it's unbelievable. It's so big.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
now we're
let's
up
take a look
to
at
Monday,
this truck here.
October 7th, and we can put that truck up. This is a funny truck.
It's a California Clean truck.
Yeah.
That's a Thor truck, by the way. Thor is the manufacturer. And the article says California's clean truck rule is the first of its kind and long overdue.
California officials are gearing up to launch a momentous new rule to tackle one of the largest sources of pollution in the state, medium and heavy-duty commercial trucks. After years of deliberation and public input, the rule is the first of its kind and long overdue.
Well, it's still been proposed. It hasn't been adopted yet.
Right.
Okay? But if it is adopted, truck manufacturers will be required to sell zero-emission trucks as an increasing percentage of their annual sales. Okay? And electrification is a perfect fit for short-haul trips with lots of stops.
Right.
Okay? Which is where they're going at. Talking about delivery trucks, buses, garbage trucks.
You know, as I think about this, Tom, it strikes me that California is going to produce the rule, and then the Trump administration is going to sue California, and then
they're going to go to court.
They're going to go to court, and when the whole thing comes out at the other end, they're going to discover that the goals that California uses for its truck rules have already been met, because these trucks are so much
economical.
Yeah, it's like in the United States, people don't realize this, but over half of the buses manufactured worldwide are electric. They cost more than diesel. In fact, they cost a lot more than diesel, but they are so cheap to drive.
Well, that's it.
They
cost much less to maintain.
And in the United States, we don't see that because we're not putting electric buses on the road. We're acting like a third world country that's saying the cost of that up front is too high. We're not going to do that. And
well, in the long run, they'd save money, but they're not worried about
the long run here is 4 years, and you know, but we as a nation are probably making 1,000, 2,000 electric buses a year, and China is making 150,000.
Something's wrong with that.
Well, yeah, you know, I grew up with the idea that China was a place where if you were born there, you were going to spend your life in a rice paddy. And you know, or in the army.
Showing the rest of the world how to do things.
I mean, we're being put into a position, and this is primarily, I think, because of lack of support at the government level. We're being put into a position where we won't be able to compete on the world market.
Well, we're dealing with the oil producers.
Yeah, we're dealing.
And they are a powerful lobby.
We're dealing with people who prize objectivism, and if objectivity says they're wrong, they throw it out the window. We're dealing with people who say no interference in the market. Let the free market be free until, of course, it threatens them, in which case they want to take it over.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, it's really bad. Okay.
Well, let's hit it. Let's talk about that Tesla again.
Okay. Well, this is also from Clean Technica. Clean Technica has about a third of its articles. It kind of annoys me. About a third of the articles at Clean Technica are about Tesla. A third of the articles.
I wonder who's paying them.
Nobody. They are not being paid by Tesla.
Well, in any case,
the editor loves Tesla.
Apparently does. The Tesla Model 3, which is their mass market model, it's their cheapest car.
Yeah.
It has a quarter of the small and middle-sized luxury car sales in the U.S. That's one company has a quarter.
One model.
One model.
One model of one company.
One company.
This is competing against General Motors and Ford and all of those imports, BMW, Mercedes. You just go down the list.
All line.
They've got a quarter of it. And
well,
you know,
the Model 3 costs about 35 grand.
Yeah.
And it's a very nice car. I have a friend who has one. It's a damn nice car.
Good.
The car has better performance and drive quality than a BMW 3 Series, much better tech than an Audi, a lower cost of ownership than a Camry or Accord. The Model 3 blows away the competition, and it's 3 times the sales of the next car on the...
He's a shill. I'm accusing you of being a shill,
A
Tom.
shill. I'll collect my paycheck on the way out.
Okay. Let me read the synopsis here. The Tesla Model 3 has taken the U.S. luxury car market by storm with an estimated market share of 24% for the first 3 quarters of this year. The Model 3 was by far the best-selling luxury car in the country in Q4 of last year, but sales have increased since then, and they just keep going up. You know, if you extrapolate their sales, they'll have the entire car market. Every single car on the market will be a Tesla by the end of 2021.
Well, I didn't make any notes about it, but the article mentions the effect on the secondhand car market.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, should we go on?
Well, I'm going to keep my stock in Tesla.
How many shares do you own?
I don't own any.
I see these things where the guys at Clean Technica will write an article on Tesla and they have a disclaimer. Yeah. And the disclaimer is they own 5 shares or something. You know, it's not really significant in
Well,
terms of
let's
large amounts
visit
of money.
Colorado here.
Here we are at Colorado. This is a beautiful picture.
It is a nice picture.
And I have some comments about this picture.
Oh, come
But
on,
this is from Inside Climate
Here we go.
News.
I'm having
Single
a hard
click.
time bringing the climate.
Yeah, single click.
Mouse,
There you
mouse is
go.
kind of sluggish today.
The mouse is sluggish. Okay.
Well, that's Colorado farmland.
Yep.
And it says, in the mountains, climate change is disrupting everything, from how water flows to when plants flower.
Mountain snowpack is shrinking and melting earlier in the spring. Warmer and longer summers increase the threat of wildfires, and the fire season has lengthened by at least 1 month since 1979. The list of problems just goes on.
Well, this is a good and interesting article. There's a lot of information there, and there's a lot of pictures. This is one of them, but there's a lot of nice pictures in this article.
Yeah.
And what it's saying here is the melting of glaciers and the loss of snow has a cascading effect for ecosystems, agriculture, and billions of people. Okay, the growing wildfire risk is just part of an accelerating cycle of global warming impacts in the world's mountainous regions.
I saw an article today, which we will have in the show next week, and it says that the area burned now, year after year in California, is 7 times what it was 50 years ago.
Okay, I can believe that.
This is, you know, climate change.
There's been some
is
pretty
making
bad fires out there.
wreckage out of, you know, areas of the West. This is a serious
We've got a
problem.
picture coming up of some of the effects.
Yes, we do. But I want to look at this picture. Can you put that
Let's
back
get it back
up?
up? Yep, I think I can. There you
I want to bring your attention to the little river that's running from about the middle, a little bit below the middle of the left side,
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
Now,
Got a road next to it.
yeah, it's got a road next to it. Now, I want you to look at a road which is in the lower right corner of that
was
thing.
paved.
That's paved. But look at the relative sizes of those roads. That one that we see next to the river is 1 lane wide. It's a dirt road. The one down that's in the lower right is a 2-lane road, and and in order for that to appear that way, and this is the way it works, I'm certain. That little river is not a river; it's a canal.
Yeah.
And it is
is.
bringing water from someplace in the mountains to some other place.
That's exactly what it is.
And it is halfway up the side of a mountain. And the photographer took a picture looking down the mountain at this this little thing. That is something, by the way, that happens in places like Colorado. Originally, they built
They
this.
wouldn't have those farmlands there without things like
No,
this.
they wouldn't. This has been long true. The seasons for growing and irrigating and so forth have, well, agriculture in much of the West has depended on irrigation for a long, long time. Okay. We are up to Tuesday,
We've got another picture coming up
October 8th. Yeah, we had a lot of pictures this week. And here is an item from Renew Economy, which is an Australian website.
Australia could aim for 700% renewables. When I saw that, I thought it was a typo.
Yeah, so did
700%.
So did I.
But it's a real number.
It's a real number. This is from the boss of ARENA, and we will. That ARENA is the Australian Renewable Energy Agency. This is a government agency. Australia's energy minister thinks having 20% of electricity from solar and wind is too much. Labor, the Labor Party, wants to get to 50% renewable by 2030. But Australia's chief scientist, Alan Finkel, is suggesting a figure of 700%, a goal supported by the Australian Renewable Energy Agency. And you know, if you think about it, the reason for this is really obvious. They want to heat, they want to have their transportation, in everything. They want everything to come from renewable energy. and they've got the resources to do it.
Oh, they definitely
easily.
have the resources. Well,
and
they're looking to make money on
they
their
want
resources.
they want to export power.
Yeah.
They want to export resources that they manufacture, such as hydrogen.
That's what this article's about.
Yeah.
They're going to make hydrogen.
They're
and
going to
sell
make
the
hydrogen and sell the hydrogen. And you know, I honestly, I think it's a pipe dream. I don't think they're going to do it because you can make hydrogen anywhere. You can put those renewable resources anywhere. And there
Well, they do have the renewable resources, though.
Yeah.
More so than at least any developed country.
There are a few countries that are not very far from Australia that can use Australian resources, and this is why it might not be a pipe dream. One of them, obviously, is Singapore, which just doesn't have the land area to manufacture its own hydrogen. I don't think. Maybe it does.
No, Singapore's not much bigger than a city.
That's basically what it is, but it's a country.
Yeah.
Another one is Japan, which has got a big population in a small area, and
They don't have the room to put up.
they don't like putting things out that require a lot of space. So I think the Australians might be right, but honestly, I don't think this is going to be a booming trade all over the world. So we'll see.
Well, we'll see. They got the energy. They trying to figure out what to do with it. They so far can't really bring it around the world by cable. So
No, they haven't got the cables in place. But
So they're going to make hydrogen and try and sell that hydrogen.
Yep. Okay, we have an item here from dsnews.com.
Are mortgage-backed securities stormproof?
Oh, this is a wild article. According to some investors, hurricanes and flooding pose far larger risk than is being priced into mortgage securities. A key culprit may be outdated flood maps, meaning far fewer people are required to have flood insurance than are at risk, the investors and researchers say.
So some of the investors are going to get burnt because somebody doesn't have flood insurance.
I got news for you. There are going to be a lot of investors burnt because it's not just outdated flood maps, it's outdated thinking. We've had 5 500-year floods in southeastern Texas in 5 years. We've had 2 1,000-year floods in Houston in just over 2 years. And we've got this
1,000-year flood's supposed to happen once in 1,000 years.
And you know, this is becoming the rule, not the exception. A couple of years ago, I did a study of what happened to flood insurance premiums in the United States during the period of 1977 to 2015. And what I found was, counting inflation, counting an increased value for land relative to the inflated dollar, counting for increased population, which means increased numbers of buildings and so forth. I would have expected, you know, in the calculation that flood insurance premiums in that time would have gone up by a factor of 5.5. But they didn't. They went up by a factor of 47. And the reason why they went up by a factor of 47 is because a lot more damage is being done. And the Flood Insurance Reform Act of 2004 says if a property has made claims on floods twice in 10 years, their flood insurance is no longer guaranteed. And what that means is there are going to be mortgage-backed securities out there, backed by mortgages, which require flood insurance, where all of a sudden the flood insurance is not available. And that means that those properties will no longer have mortgages because the mortgages require flood insurance that they can't get.
So they're going to be abandoned.
Unless their owners are willing to pay for the flood insurance at, you know, a premium rate, yeah.
If they can get it at all.
If they can get it at all. And the insurance companies are starting to understand that flood insurance ain't what it used to be. And now the federal flood insurance program is already $22 billion behind. Earlier this year, before the most recent flooding in Texas. And, you know, where is this going to go?
Well, what the article is saying Environmental experts say the situation is likely to worsen in the coming
Yes.
years, just as you're saying. Storms will be more powerful. We've observed that already.
Yep.
Move more slowly. We've
Yes.
observed that already.
Yep.
And that will dramatically increase the likelihood of coastal flooding. It's going to happen, folks.
It's going to happen. Sorry, Donald. Mar-a-Lago is going to lose its value. Okay, should we move on?
Yeah, we got a picture coming up
We
here,
do
too.
indeed.
Let's
This
get
is
that
something that's
picture right
an
there.
important item, and it comes from Macro Business.
We could spend an hour talking
We could
just about
indeed.
this article.
But we should explain this picture. The 3 columns on the left are not 3 columns, they're 4. It just happens that one of them
One
under
is
solar
empty.
is empty.
Because they didn't make any.
These are 40 countries, and it lists the countries according to what type of energy generation, electric energy generation, was cheapest. And obviously, the majority of these countries in 2014, the cheapest energy source was coal. Now, as it happens, 2/3 of the energy sources, the 4 right-hand columns under 2019, the cheapest energy sources for 2/3 of the countries are wind and solar. And so, you know, where it had been 50% coal, now it's 67% or something, wind and solar. And that coal column is just going to get smaller and smaller with the passing of time. Some of the countries obviously jumped from coal being cheapest to solar being
To
cheapest.
wind or solar.
Yeah.
Yep.
And, you know, Vietnam is listed as being a coal cheapest country. That's not going to last. Philippines, they're already having
They don't
problems.
mind coal in Vietnam, do they? They burn it, but do they mind it?
I don't know. I don't know. I imagine Vietnam is not as tiny as we might think, and I would imagine they
Yeah,
might,
it's just a long, thin country.
with some mountains and you know so forth. So they might. I don't know how much coal they
Well,
burn.
it's a long and detailed article. This is really a long article.
Yeah.
Got a lot of charts in it. And if you like charts and you got about 3 weeks to read it, I would suggest you look it up because it is a good article. And the article is named Coal is Finished as Renewable Costs Crash.
Bloomberg just published another stark reminder of the shifting landscape for energy generation. Fossil fuels have a limited time as viable sources of energy because of economics. Solar plus batteries are the killer app, and that is in quotes, killer app, extremely scalable once they reach an acceptable cost, and they are reaching it.
Interesting thing from the article. Coal, gas, and oil have economies based on a scarcity curve.
Yeah,
Okay? The more we use, the deeper we need to dig and the more expensive to extract.
right,
Okay? So we use more and it costs more.
yes.
Okay? Solar and battery power is on a technology curve.
It's a
Okay? The
really
more
good
the
point.
world produces, the cheaper it is in the long run. And we're seeing that.
We are,
Okay?
yeah.
So in the long run, the price of energy will not exceed the cost of solar plus batteries.
Actually, we've seen that solar plus batteries is already beating
It's
the cost
happening
of-
already.
Yeah. Okay, should we go on? We've got 6 minutes for 3.
Well, I guess we got only 3 things to talk about
Yeah.
besides this. I got a couple of takeaways.
Okay, go ahead.
Just for what it's worth, the utilities levelized cost for electricity. This is what they pay for electricity.
Right.
Okay, solar about 4 cents a kilowatt hour. Okay, solar plus battery. Well, if they're providing it through the evening peak, it's 7 cents a kilowatt hour. If it's 24/7, it's 9 cents a kilowatt hour. This is what they're paying for it.
Right.
Okay, coal, they're paying right now about 8 cents a kilowatt hour. Gas, they're paying 4 to 8 cents. It's very sensitive, depends upon the local gas price.
Right.
Okay, oil power, this is interesting. That's why we don't use much. 23 cents a kilowatt hour.
Yeah, and nuclear is good. Do you have nuclear?
I don't, and it's up, I saw that number, it's up around 15 cents.
Yeah. Which means solar plus batteries 24/7
That's
is
a pretty good
cheaper.
deal.
Is cheaper than nuclear.
It is, oh yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah.
and that doesn't count Price Anderson, and it doesn't count the cost of taking care of the waste.
Well, we get the prices that they're selling for now. We just read what they're
Yeah.
buying. And retail price for electricity In the U.S., China, and India, it's about 15 cents per
Okay.
kilowatt hour. Australia, 25 cents to 35 cents. So they're paying a lot more for it. Japan, 25 cents. 25 cents a kilowatt hour. And Europe is also expensive, between 30 and 40. And it varies widely. And Germany is at the high end. Okay? Rooftop solar, electricity price, it costs you about 13 cents. Okay? And rooftop solar plus battery, somewhere between 31 and 39 cents.
Yeah.
So as the main issue is solar produces in excess of power. Oh, a main issue is that solar produces in excess of power during the day and a shortage at night. Okay, so
Right.
power prices during the day will continue to fall over a few years. This will drive a pickup in batteries.
Yep.
Okay, so you're going to see some changes. You're really going to see some changes. And it's going to be based upon economics.
Right.
Not only just the gross economics, but how the economics actually work.
Okay, we are up to Wednesday, October 9th, and
It's
we've
our
got
last day, we
about
got a
1
picture.
minute for each of 3 articles.
Well, we've got
The
a
first
picture
one is
coming
from
up
the
here.
BBC. That reminds me of Scranton, Pennsylvania, because of the glowing coal.
Well, it happens to be France.
Yeah.
But it says hundreds of temperature records were broken over the summer.
Almost 500 all-time high records were set in the northern hemisphere over the summer, analysis indicates. According to Dr. Robert Roda, the lead scientist at Berkeley Earth, the increasing number of record high temperatures is part of a long-term trend of global warming.
Well, the records are broken in 29 countries. Okay. Let's move along here. We
Yeah.
got another picture coming up.
Okay, not yet. We've got an item from Clean Technica, buildings account.
Yep, that picture goes with the next one.
Yep.
Right? Buildings account for 11% of global emissions. Here are 2 ways to slash that number.
The steel and concrete used in new buildings come with a high price in terms of CO2 emissions. There are ways to reduce those emissions, however. One is to use wood instead of steel. We've talked about that on
We
the
have
show.
already.
Engineered
There's
lumber.
new kinds of wood that really work very well, and they save you money during construction, and they're cheaper to buy.
Yeah. The other is to use new methods for making cement. And you know,
They talked about that.
They did, and they didn't explain it as well as I would like to have seen. This is a complicated process, but they're talking about cement that is made almost entirely from renewable energy.
Well, yeah, it takes a lot of heat to make
Yeah.
cement. They've got to take limestone.
Yes.
They got to heat that limestone to drive off the carbon,
Yeah.
which goes back into the atmosphere as carbon dioxide.
Which is part of the carbon dioxide footprint of cement.
of cement,
But it's
absolutely.
just
Well,
part.
but it's a significant amount.
It is.
Okay, so they're developing some new ways using electrolysis, and I guess they're capturing the oxygen from the electrolysis because it's isolated,
Yep.
connecting it to the calcium carbonate, or calcium it's calcium, the limestone. That's
Right.
whatever.
As I said, this is a complicated
It's
issue.
complicated.
Now we have one more item to do, and I want to do it.
Well, let's get that picture up.
There is a picture of Paradise, California, after the fire last year. This is from BBC.
Paradise, California. Well, that's what it says.
Yes.
Northern California braced for mega power cut, and it's happening now.
It's happening now. Pacific Gas and Electric is cutting electricity to about 800,000 customers in Northern California in an attempt to prevent wildfires. Large swaths of the San Francisco Bay Area outside the city are expected to be affected. PG&E warned that the shutdown could last several days.
Well, that picture, I'll bring it up again.
Yeah,
That is from the so-called campfire in Paradise, California.
right.
And as you can see, the fire's still going on
At the time the picture was
at
taken.
the time
yeah.
they took that picture.
This is a situation that is just, I mean, I've been through a number of times in my life when power has been out at my home for a week. And they were all because of winter storms. These people in California are having their power out because of wind and heat.
Well, there's pretty strong suspicion, I think they actually lost a court case on it, that their power lines caused the fire.
Oh yeah, they've gone
Okay.
bankrupt because
And
of
they've
that.
gone bankrupt because
If those
of it.
fires hadn't happened, they would not get away with cutting the power
No,
to their
not at
customers.
all.
So anyway, we've got to go. It's time to leave.
I guess we do.
Yeah.
The clock stopped ticking.
The
So.
clock stopped ticking.
Adios, people.
See you next time.